And so my definition for magic now is magic is where phenomenology of consciousness and metaphysical causality intersect. Occultus in Latin means not seen with the eyes, not perceptible with the eyes, like oculus. Your revelation is for you. It's not for the rest of the world.
Let's first break down what is magic and what is the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn from your understanding, especially being an adept.
Yeah, good questions that I don't frequently get asked. And I wish more people would ask those entry-level kind of questions, because they're actually not entry-level. They define how you go forward and understand this stuff. Yeah. So you've got to really figure that out. Now, probably only about a year ago, I found a new way to express the definition of magic that Crowley gives and that Regarty gave after him, causing change to occur in accordance with the will, and Dion Fortune defines it similarly. There's all these little nuances, but I think people now, there's such an intersection of academic disciplines with occultism now that I can sort of use more of those terms and people are going to understand it. And not only that, but we'll be able to render the definition somewhat more precise, right? Because it's vague. Like, how do you cause change with your will? I will to lift this cup up and drink from it. Is that magic? And Crowley, at a certain point in his life, right? I talked to Richard Kaczynski about this, the great Crowley scholar, who I have a great respect and admiration for.
Yeah, his thick book is brilliant about Crowley. I've read it. It's fantastic.
Yep. He's fantastic, and he's also very fair about stuff. He's got a wonderful sense of humor, and he's positively brilliant. But because I've seen him speak live, like in person, and like that's the test. You can read somebody's book, you go see them talk in person, and if they blow you away, you're like, this guy's got the sauce, and he does. So, but we were talking, and Crowley at a certain point in his life reduced everything to psychology, all that stuff. He changed his mind later. Yeah. Okay. His like any human being, his thoughts and his ideas evolved, but it was very vague, because at a certain point he does say, yes, everything is magic. And I do think there's some justification to that viewpoint, but really, like, magic as it stands, as we experience it, does not have visible causes. So there's a visible cause where this cup came up to my mouth, right? I mean, it's as simple as Harry Potter. You'd see it floating up to my mouth. It doesn't have a cause. It does not have an empirical cause. It doesn't have anything objective that makes sense that should happen. But it's verifiable. And so my definition for magic now is magic is where phenomenology of consciousness and metaphysical causality intersect. Phenomenology of consciousness, the experience of being conscious, being aware, being alive, and metaphysical causality. It's where those two things intersect, when you can cause metaphysical changes that manifest in reality, that are an unseen cause. That's the root. That's where we inherit the term occult. Occultus in Latin means not seen with the eyes, not perceptible with the eyes, like oculus. Okay, occultus. Okay, so where that intersects is that we could just define those moments, whether intentional or not, as magic.
Let's go into breaking down what is then break down a little more about the idea of phenomenology of magic and what that means.
Well, it's basically the missing piece, the stuff that it has an anthropological and psychological sort of intersection. It's where you're basically studying what the experience is from testimony, from some people, some of the more intrepid scholars put themselves through these rituals. Like Angela Puka is a really good example. Part of her work is to go through this stuff, and so then to have this phenomenological data for herself in this firsthand experience that you can then use to inform your interpretations and how you go forward. And the phenomenology of magic is of any spiritual path. Now, magic, you don't have to use spiritually, but you're using spiritual laws, metaphysical laws, which is, causality behind the veil. So it's an intimate experience. It's arguably one of the most intimate experiences you're going to ever have. And that's why they tell you time and time again, don't talk about this.
Yes.
I don't talk about a lot. I don't really talk about like what I've experienced and what I've been through. Occasionally I will drop these little kind of casual things that'll make people go, oh yeah, that's just people always want to hear anecdotes about your magical practice, but that sense of momentousness of that occurrence, if you prostitute it by talking about it and waving it around, what you're not understanding is that you're cheapening it in more ways than one. Okay. Most people are just going to think you're crazy. Like it's nobody cares how real it was to you. Yeah. So they're just they don't know. Yeah. So,
and your revelations are your own.
Yeah. And they're for you. And that's one of the biggest problems that I had with a lot of that era of literature, that stemmed really from Blavatsky and the Theosophical Society, is that you had all these people and you still see it today. They're channeling beings and they're going, they write books and they're talking to crowds of people. And it's like that, dude, that's one of the most irresponsible things you can do as a practitioner. Yeah. Your revelation is for you. It's not for the rest of the world.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Now let's work into it. A lot of people think they know what the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn is. And I think that most people don't, obviously, because not only is it in a small subset of our culture, and it has some of the biggest influences on our culture, I would state, not only in Hollywood and in just the literature, but in culture as it is today. But so give me what you as a practitioner and you as just an outsider looking in as well, because you have both within you.
Yeah, I mean, so when you talk about the Golden Dawn, there's a distinction that has to be made. We can talk about the historical Golden Dawn, the founding class, which was unified. Yeah. Up until the early 1900s, when there was a schism, the Matherses went to Paris, everybody else stayed in London, and then from there, the madness ensued. So that early class was effectively a group of, so the people who founded it, three people: William Robert Woodman, William Wynne Westcott, and Samuel Little Mathers. And they were, all three of them were Rosicrucian Masons. Yep. So they had come through Masonry to a Rosicrucian body, which was started by Robert Wentworth Little. And not very long before, within the century before, inside of that 100 years, possibly inside of that 60 years from when Woodman, Westcott, and Mathers had joined the what they call the SRIA, the Societas Rosicruciana in Anglia, the Rosicrucian Society in England. And they, William Robert Woodman was the elder statesman among them. He didn't live very long into the founding of the Golden Dawn. He ended up dying, but he was the Supreme Magus, which is that's an office where you are in charge. You are the head guy for the Rosicrucian branch of Masonry, at least at that time, throughout Europe. Okay. And that's not common in Masonry. In Masonic bodies, it's very democratic. You vote people out. You got to give up after one, maybe 2 terms. Some terms occasionally will do 4 years, but it's not. You don't hold that for life. The Supreme Magus of the Rosicrucian Masonic body has it for life, and so or at least did at that point. I'm not a part of the Rosicrucian Society in the United States, but I did initiate into Westcott, Mathers's, and Woodman's College in London last year, Metropolitan College #1 of the SRIA. I initiated last year after 2 days of reading their handwritten journals in the research library at Freemasons Hall for some research I was doing.
Wow.
So they came out of that, and people need to understand how profoundly that influenced the Golden Dawn.
Yeah.
And so they come into it and they create this other thing. Now, there's this document around. I'm not going to go into too much detail. If anybody wants to have like a really, really nice, fine-tuned
It's on your
two-part,
channel.
it's
Yes.
on my channel, History
Yes,
of the
it is.
Golden Dawn, parts
Yep.
1 and 2. They're actually probably my most successful videos if you're judging based off of production quality and views. But
yeah, which I think was some of the first videos I actually listened of yours.
Yeah, it's been like 2 years, I think, since I put those out. But it'll take care of fill in all the gaps for you, because I can't go into too much detail. But there was a group of documents that the Golden Dawn was supposed to be founded on. They're called the cipher manuscripts, or the cipher folio. And it was a cipher. It was a simple Trithemian cipher, which is just kind of a substitution of letters and words, and there were specific symbols and things like this. So Westcott claims to have that he there's a lot of different origin stories for how he got the papers, but the most accepted one is that he got them from Kenneth Mackenzie's widow. Kenneth Mackenzie was a big time Mason who was interested in esotericism. He went to France to study with Eliphas Levi. He wrote the Royal Masonic Encyclopedia. He was very interested in this stuff. He founded a really cool little secret organization called the Society of Eight, which did a lot of work with tarot and stuff like that. So it ends, the most common, the accepted story is that Westcott essentially gets these from Kenneth Mackenzie's widow, and he begins translating them. He translates them, and then he transcribes it, gives it to Mathers, because he was much more of a ritualist, a ritual genius, whereas Westcott was a great ritualist himself, but his main thing was this man was a scholar of his time. He was really respected as a scholar, and he wrote widely. Anthropology, anatomy, right? He was a coroner by trade, the City of London. He wrote extensively, widely, fascinating guy. But he gave this information, the raw information of these manuscripts, over to Mathers to make rituals. And those rituals became the rituals of the Golden Dawn. And so, there's a lot that can be said. It's the initiatory component. They are a magical society. They teach and study and exchange magical formulas, the techniques, the history, the theory, the practice, mostly through what we call a Hermetic Kabbalistic framework, but incorporating so much. If it were not for what the Golden Dawn did by bringing all of these threads, all of these strands together, we would not have magic the way we have it today. It would still be in the hands of the religious and academic elites. It would not be out here where people can. The only reason people know about in the mainstream about the grimoire tradition is because Mathers translated the Abramelin. Mathers translated the Theurgia Goetia, and then later Aleister Crowley took the translation and published it under his own name. But it comes from these guys discovering this shit in the British Library and in French libraries and things like that, and then translating them, even though they weren't necessarily doing that work. But so it's a magical society. But the thing is, those rituals are not for show. They're not Masonic. Okay. They have an underlying rationale behind them that is supposed to be doing something astral, etherically, and magically on the candidate, on everybody who goes through those rituals. And so they affect what we call a spiritual alchemy, right? And for anybody that's not familiar with alchemy, there's lots of different phases and forms, but the basic thing is solve et coagula. You take it apart, refine, put it back together. And that's effectively what we do with initiates through that outer order. And then when you get to the inner order, that's Rosicrucian. That's the Ordo Rosae Rubia et Aurea Crucis, the order of the ruby rose and the cross of gold. And once you get in there, then you begin what they call Hermetic theurgy, and like doing it intentionally. Before that was a preparation. It was a spiritual preparation. It was a contextual and knowledge sort of base foundation for you. And I'll just kind of conclude on this note. Then as now, you didn't do magic proper in the outer order. The magic was done to you.
Yeah.
You get the banishing ritual of the pentagram. That's not really what we're talking about when we talk about, it's not intensively what we mean when we discuss this Hermetic theurgy. It's a big part of it, but it's not, you're not there yet. So, the magic's done to you in the outer order, and then in the inner order, you do the magic.